Seated around the table as your moderator this afternoon. It is November the 14th, 2015. We're here with Peter Lennon, who was with the station before FM.
I'll give you my bio.
The bio will come later. Randy, the station manager. Randy Williams, the station manager.
I'll give you his
bio. When we went FM, and somehow I wound up in the captain's chair, Craig Mackie. Here we are, gathered 40 years later, and it's been a journey. So, Peter offered to start with, I think, about 2 hours of reflection, reflection of the pre-FM. I'm popping here. I'm just going to move this because when I turn to look at you. All right.
You want me to go out and get you a Tim Hortons, Evan? You okay?
This could be a long haul, buddy. All right, Peter.
So, when I first was thinking about the 40th, I wanted to get the three of us together and do a bit of an oral history. And
that's ORAL.
And I wanted to call it, as you might recall, Here Comes the 70s, because that's basically the decade that we're going to be talking about. And for each of us, we're heading towards the 70s, our 70s. So just to give you a quick bio, I came to the station in 1971.
Did he say at the station or to the station?
With the station.
Okay.
And I was on air in 1971, and then I became director of operations. And 72, I became the production manager. 73 and 74, the station manager. Then there was an interregnum there, as we like to call it. Came back in 75 as a salesperson. And then I guess about 77, I guess I was revenue manager. And then 78, I was the first funding manager.
You managed the funding drive,
That's
right.
And Randy, who are you?
I'm the, I came to the radio station in 74. I was working at the Charlatan as a columnist, and I heard Peter laughing coming down the hallway, and I thought they were having fun over there, so I came and hung out with Craig and Peter and Johnny Coneskin, and we had so much fun. I started to mess around doing a few programming bits, some political bits. Did Sex in the City with John Coneskin. That was quite an exciting thing. We went to a strip club in Ottawa, and then we went over to Chez Henri. And
was that Pandora's Box?
It might have been Pandora's Box. There was a nice French girl there who said...
But what are you really known for? Get to the point.
She said, I love to feel the man between my leg.
We had to go there. All right. So then you were messing around.
Then I auditioned to become a ballot box for the CUSA elections, and
I think your second half has just kicked in.
And that we caused quite a fuss during the CUSA elections that year, and later on, after that, things had settled in. I thought everything was fine, and then I showed up at the station one night and found out that Peter had resigned, and I was dumbfounded, and as the weeks went by, and I realized that I think I knew why he did. Couldn't say that I blamed him, but everything that I knew about radio and FM broadcasting came from Peter, and I was quite excited about it. Excuse me, and still was. So I had the thought that I would run for station manager, and there were a few of us who did.
Let's clarify here, because we were still a club on campus.
Still a club.
Executive position, well, the station manager was elected, and then you...
Program director as well, as I recall.
Yeah.
They elected me station manager.
And
anyway.
what did you do as station manager? Very quickly.
I worked on the FM broadcasting license. I threatened a number of people. Helped to organize raising funds for the project, and generally turned everything else over to Craig. And
Well, and what you did, I think, was verbalize a vision for the station. You took a lot of what we talked about for years.
I did.
And you focused it in a way that helped move us over a hill.
And
so
your
I started
bio- your
my
bio,
my quick
Craig.
bio is I was sitting in the Loeb Lounge in '71 after having left Royal Military College, and I kept hearing these strange things come out of the speakers, and. What was the name of the show you worked on? Omega, was it Alpha 2 Omega?
No, it was called Omega.
Just called Omega, and I heard the Marx Brothers, and I thought, what the hell is this? So I literally followed the wires back to this place, and just was like Randy, immediately engaged by the characters around here, and volunteered to work in the library. At which point Peter said, "You don't have a voice for radio. You'll never get on air." He was so encouraging and developmental at the time.
I think I said you don't have a face for television.
So after that, volunteering, I got a shift in Carrier Current. I think it was Tuesday night, midnight, until 9 a.m. Wednesday morning. It was an overnight shift, a horrible shift, but I got to learn almost every single record in the library, because when you have to fill 9 hours, you learn a lot about music. After that, I became production
manager in '73.
'73, and then I filled a variety of roles: operations, assistant manager, and then became station manager in 1978 after Randy left.
Well, those bios went on way too long. Let me just put that. There's going to have to be a
I
lot
missed
of
the
editing
word
going.
quick.
Let me tell you about my experience, and I think what you say about listening to the radio actually being an attractor. And I remember in early October, I was a 17-year-old coming to Q year in 1970, and I remember being similarly in the Loeb Lounge, and I heard that Janis Joplin had died.
Ooh.
Oh.
On October the 4th. And then they played a Janis Joplin cut, and I said, well, that's really interesting, because quite frankly, any other radio station at the time would have just said, Janis Joplin is dead, and now the rest of the news. And by the way, she was on heroin, and they would emphasize that. This station was emphasizing the fact that she was an artist and played music. And I thought, no, that's an interesting conjunction. That's something that interests me. So I actually decided I'm going to investigate this. And one of the things, and this is unique to Carleton, we have a series of tunnels here, of course, and they acted not only as an audience attractor, but also as a recruitment. And that's how you came to it. That's how I came to it. So that I think that's very unique among radio stations on campus. Now, the early era of Radio Carleton was sort of a radio clubism. I remember coming in. For some reason, I was on campus during the weekend. And
You were a student?
Yes, I was a student. And matter of fact, I was planning on actually probably doing about 4 years of education in 3. Well, that, of course, took 8. And so I used to come up here and watch these guys Saturday night, and it was basically a bit of a party. But that's how they approached it. It wasn't really anything about programming. It was more like, well, let's get stoned and play Zappa and be our own little media club. Part of it was a bunch of guys who actually lived together, and they just dominated the whole thing. And I come from sort of through my father, Boston Blackie and The Shadow, and a real appreciation for all those wonderful playlists.
The golden age of radio.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
the golden age of radio. So that's what I wanted to do with the station. I wanted to create images in the mind, and so that was sort of the foundational intention, and so other than the partying that was going on, I thought, well, maybe there's something that I can do on air. So at the time that I finally went on air, which was in February 1971, I joined a select crew of 125 other on-air DJs.
Was that the size?
Yeah, that was the size. There was an enormous, unwieldy group of people.
I know you get to
That-
And the unwieldy.
Yeah, unwieldy. And it was 125 people. They would come in and do an hour. And you couldn't do anything in an hour. You had 10 songs and you were out. You couldn't run themes. You couldn't put comedy in there and anything of the sort. So what happened was that there was a change in management about 6 months later. And I decided that I was going to run for director of operations, which gave me control of the staff. One of the first things that I did was to cut the staff in half. And so
How did they feel about that?
and I was a very unpopular person for several months. As a matter of fact, I just heard about 2 weeks ago that a person out in the West Coast still hates me because I took a show away from him. And I know exactly who it is and why I did so. He was playing the Beach Boys. That wasn't our intentions. Now, we got down to about 55 people, which is still a lot. However, that gave us the ability to do 2-hour shows. And once you got into 2-hour shows, you were able to do more flow, more musical flow. And this was...
How the hell did I get stuck with a 9-hour show? That was you, wasn't it?
Well, as long as you didn't speak on air, we were happy to give you as many hours as possible. But of course, the reason why we were headed in that direction is because we were aware of the station in Montreal called CHOM FM.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a major influence.
It was a
on
huge
us.
influence.
And they were doing these thematic shows that ran songs that complement each other, that built a certain...
They were thinking about flow and
Absolutely.
tempo
Absolutely.
and key and all of that was going
Segue.
on. Segue.
Absolutely. And there was a couple of DJs that turned me on to that, because in Ottawa you could get it if you attached your cable prongs to the back of the radio. And so that's what got me interested. For some reason, Quebec, Montreal in particular, loved progressive British rock, which was all the rage at the time. Yes, and early Genesis and Gentle Giant and all those types of people. And that's the type of sophisticated music we wanted to play, not the Beach Boys. Yes. So it was really sort of a post-Beatle era. There was a Bowie, Traffic, the Who was moving on with their sort of their opera style stuff. It was an era where McLuhan was very popular, so we were thinking in different ways about the medium. And so, and some people suggest that we were influenced by Brian Murphy. I think we were way ahead of Brian Murphy. Brian Murphy was Brian Murphy, and
To be fair,
Institution.
he was on CKBY. He used to do a Saturday night program for maybe 3 or 4 hours. He was partial to the Grateful Dead, and other sort of San Francisco progressive sounds. For some reason we were more interested in the British side of things, and their interpretation musically. So everybody sort of changed the way they were thinking, and this is sort of a foundational brick to the station, is that we started to do basically what I guess was the early stage of foreground programming, and that's when I became production manager. And of course, we went out and solicited programs that were much more sophisticated than the usual stuff. We went to Radio Moscow, and they were more than happy in the middle of the Cold War to provide us with programming that was more of a magazine-style format. And I think you also remember...
We also got great music from Radio Moscow.
Yes, Shostakovich.
Fantastic jazz.
Shostakovich, fantastic jazz. You're absolutely right. And we also had, at the time, there was a bunch of old blues guys that had been revived because of the Rolling Stones and the interest in blues and Cream and so on and so forth. And they started to do a tour. So we brought them into this studio, people like T-Bone Walker, people like Howling Wolf, Muddy Waters, absolutely.
Yep.
And we started to do programming that way. We'd interview them, and then we'd play their records. It would be a whole package together. And as you know as well as I do, that we also started to break some of the Canadian artists like Murray McLaughlin,
Bruce Cockburn.
Bruce Cockburn, absolutely.
We were playing local musicians that had no other outlet